Forward. Okay, so we're on the 8th episode now of the Bike Pack Shop podcast with a very special guest, none other than Lael Wilcox. Lael, let's hear a little bit about yourself for anyone who doesn't know who you are.
Yeah, sure. I'm Lael Wilcox. I'm from Alaska. I'm an ultra endurance bike packer. Started touring in 2008, really started riding in 2006 just to commute to work, then traveled the world for 7 years and then started bike pack racing in 2015. So since then, I've been kind of doing a balance of racing, touring, putting on women and girls programs, and spending as much time on my bike as I can.
That's awesome. Yeah. So well, I've had a few questions from our community of people. So I'm going to sort of work my way through a few of these. One of them was, and I've been wondering this as well. What was your first bikepacking trip? Do you want to go through like a little bit of detail about where this was, what happened, what sort of inspired you? Was there anyone who inspired you to do this?
Yeah, sure. So my first trip was in 2008. I mean, really, that was just bike touring. I wanted to ride across the country after I graduated from college. And at that time, I was not connected. I didn't even know people did that. I just got an idea during a long ride. I rode to the next city when I was in college to visit my sisters. And then I was like, I could ride across the country. So I went home to Alaska, I saved money, and then I rode down the East Coast. And that was in 2008, East Coast of the US. So from Montreal, Canada to Key West, Florida. I thought it would be a one-off bike trip. I had no idea what I was doing. I was riding a road bike from 1982 that couldn't have a rack or anything. So I just had a saddle bag and a little handlebar bag and packed really lightly and had a total blast. But it was also super scary. I didn't know where to camp. I didn't know what to eat. I had paper maps.
Oh, wow.
That's it.
Okay.
So it was, yeah. And then ended up in Florida. Out of money. It's the end of the road. You can't go any farther south. Got a job there for a couple months as a pedicab driver. So that's bicycle taxi. And I worked in a restaurant, saved money, and then started riding across the South and basically kept going since then. I thought I would go back to medical school and become a doctor, and I just kept riding my bike. So that's something like, I guess, 2008. Now we're in 2022. So 14 years ago, something like that. Just been doing it since.
Wow. So it's been like one continuous long trip, I guess.
Broken up to work. So for the first 10 years, I worked in pizza places, bike shops. I've probably worked in like 25 different restaurants to save money to travel. And then after 10 years of doing this and racing, I ended up getting sponsored by a few different companies that ultimately have helped me do this full time. So I really get to do what I love, and I don't have to sell pizza to do it anymore. So it's amazing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people appreciate those companies for giving you the support that you need to be able to do this, because you've been able to document some really amazing things for a lot of people, as you obviously know. And it's, a lot of people in my community are really inspired and become inspired by these documentaries that you're able to create.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's all my wife. Rue is a photojournalist, and she's incredibly talented. And so it's one thing for me to get to ride these places, to take on these challenges and see the beauty of it. But it's totally another to have someone there documenting the experience and putting it into a cohesive story to share. And so that's really been a huge part of the last 4 years for us, and something we're really motivated to continue to do. And because the response is incredible. People actually send me messages pretty much every day of the week saying they saw something and then they went out and rode, or they went out and pushed themselves, even if it was raining or it brightened their day. And that's what it's really all about, is that people actually make this their own. The sport of bike packing is still really not well known. It's so fringe.
In its early days.
That I want more people to know that this is a possibility. This is something that they could do. Because I never heard of it. So, and I just kind of stumbled upon it and changed from road touring to more dirt touring, and then realized, this is how you have to carry equipment on the bike if you want to ride trails. And that was with a company in Alaska, Revelate Designs, one of the first bike packing bag manufacturers, and also my first sponsor. So we kind of grew into this sport together. And now it's amazing to see it actually kind of explode, but it's still so much in the corner of cycling, but such an amazing opportunity, something that's changed my life. So that's something I really want to share. And I feel like, by having somebody document it, by having Rue share these stories, that's one way that we can get more people on bikes.
So is Rue the main videographer for your documentaries and stuff?
Videographer and photographer. So everything you see on Instagram, all the videos, almost all the videos, it's basically Rue. And she's usually there riding with me. So she's carrying all this camera equipment on her bike, which is hard to do. It's heavy and awkward, but
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is your main sort of aim with inspiring people? Like you obviously have a love for cycling and a love for the outdoors. Do you have, some sort of, I guess, mission to inspire people?
Yeah, I guess my biggest motivation is to inspire more women and girls into this sport and into just taking on challenges in general. I mean, when I started racing in 2015 in the spring, the first race I entered, I was the only woman. Every race since then, women have always been less than, I think at the most 20%, but usually less than 10. And it's kind of sad that this is still the case 8 years later. It's not all about racing, though. It's like you don't have to race to engage in this sport. So I also have created women's bike packing rallies, a girls program in Alaska and Arizona, as well as women's adventure scholarships to just get them out there riding. And I feel like, the videos inspire people, but what gets people riding is actually making an opportunity where they can show up and do it themselves. And I feel like, it's like, I love riding, but when I see somebody else with that light go off where they're like, this is incredible. This is changing my life. This is the way I can see the world. This is the way I can get to know myself. Those are exactly the feelings I've had through bike packing. And so I really want to share that, because I feel like, by overcoming challenges on the bike, it's like that totally applies to your normal life. You gain confidence, and you start having dreams of the things you want to do, and then realizing them. So it's something that I find has really changed my life. So I love sharing that, and then I love meeting these women and girls and seeing them kind of grow, improve, and then seeing what they do next, because it's not all about the things I do. It's like, I have a friend, Louise, in France, that's getting refugees to ride bikes. And then I've heard of grit programs popping up in different places around the world for girls, and to see like other people kind of take off with different ideas in the bike world, that just makes it a more positive community. And that's something that I care about, because there is still a side of this community that's grouchy and negative, and that's not the people I want to surround myself with. I want to go with the positive group.
Yeah, for sure. And we have a few women in our bikepacking community who'll be listening to this podcast for sure. And I guess how would one, enroll or organize a training camp with you, or like what's the program?
Yeah, so I usually share opportunities on Instagram, so that's a great place to find them. This week we launched
today, I think, or yesterday. It was about
yesterday. It was a spot for scouting a new route in Slovenia that's open to any woman around the world that wants to be part of a team of, I think, about 8 women that are going to go do that August 2nd to 10th. We have a women's bike packing rally on the Torino-Nice route in September. We'll have another one in the Canary Islands in January. I'll run a grit program next February in Tucson. So a lot of different things are popping up. And the thing is, it's like, a limited amount of people can actually participate in these, but then I feel like the energy kind of has this waving effect where it's like, even if you can't do it, you feel like you could do something else. And then you make your own trip when the timing allows, and then you take off with that, invite your friends, start your own girls program. These are all like, we're all kind of working towards the same goal of getting more women and girls on bikes. And really that means more people of all backgrounds. It's not just limited to women, but I just choose that group because I relate to them and they are underrepresented at this point.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. There's actually a local company around Brisbane area, which is where I live and most of my community lives in. And they have like a little girls go gravel meet. And one of the head coaches was actually on the podcast yesterday, and she's got a few questions in here. But yeah, it's awesome because you can see it growing, and more women, go out and actually ride these events, and they see what's out there. And there is a lot out here where I live in Brisbane, and it's just great to see that little community growing. Yeah.
Yeah, it really seems like Australia has a great bikepacking community. I've never ridden there, so I hope to someday.
One day. So yeah, obviously you've got a lot of motivations to ride, whether that be like inspiring people and your love for cycling. But is there any other reasons that, make you love cycling and want to go out every day and ride your bike?
I think I really just love that time outside. I get so excited about the places that it could take me. And it's, I used to be a runner. That was kind of my first love in sports. And it's just too hard on your body. So cycling it's a way that's more sustainable for me to push myself day after day. So that's become like breathing for me. It's something that I always want to do. I love racing. I love riding. I love like every different version of this. I love riding to the store. It's like, and I really appreciate that bikes are like such a huge part of our culture. Everybody learns how to ride a bike when they're a kid, and it can be for transportation. It can be for exercise. It can be for spending time socially. It's like, it can just kind of, just be part of your life in so many different ways. So,
so many benefits.
I really like that. I don't think I could ever get sick of that. If I get tired of one discipline or one style of riding, then I just do something else.
Yeah. No, there's definitely like a lot you can do with it. And I've seen, do you do like a bit of road riding as well as the gravel and the bike packing and mountain biking?
I did a road race in May in Catalonia. It was 1,400 kilometers, a big loop in the mountains, and it was incredible. I loved it. It was my first road race since 2016, since the Trans Am. So fun to get back on the road. I usually avoid that for bike packing just because of the risk of getting hit by cars. But the drivers in Spain are exceptional. They give you tons of room.
Really?
I felt super safe the whole time. Yes, they're, especially in that region, they're really respectful of cyclists, and it's a big part of their culture. And so even if you don't like road riding other places, I'd really recommend doing it in Spain. It's amazing there.
Do you find that a lot of the cars that like when you're riding, because obviously you ride in a lot of different places, do you find that most of the time the cars are, reasonably accepting of cyclists on the road?
I mean, it really depends on where you are. I think a lot of the reason I've gone to dirt riding and trail riding is to be out of traffic, because it's more peaceful. It's just more peaceful to be away from cars, safer. But yeah, I mean, country to country, it's different. I was just riding through the Balkans, and the drivers were honking there, but I think they were honking a lot of the time just to say hello.
Yeah.
Which is pretty funny. It's really startling. Alaska.
You're like, whoa, what's up?
Yeah. Woo. In the city, in Anchorage, Alaska, where I'm from, drivers generally hate cyclists, which is pretty awful. But once you get out of the city into more remote areas, usually they would just come up to me to ask me how I was doing. They're curious what I'm doing out there, because there's nobody out there. So place to place, it really varies. I think in general, it's getting better for cyclists because more people are riding, more people are lobbying for it, for safe infrastructure. We have more connection with social media, with the internet to make a stronger cycling community. So I feel like more information is being spread, so that's helping, but it's always a struggle.
Yeah, definitely. Like throughout the I guess like COVID and like that whole pandemic and the lockdowns in Australia, I was working at a specialized bike shop just not far from where I live, and just the amount of people who were just going out and buying bikes just in the lockdown, because there wasn't really much else you could do because you're allowed that hour of exercise on the bike. It was pretty crazy, and Specialized obviously had their Cirrus range, and that just went crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, super boom during the pandemic. Everybody started riding bikes again, which is really cool. And I hope everybody sticks with it.
Yeah, same. It's great because you see a lot more people out than pre-COVID. It's sort of, I guess, slowed down a bit now, but I remember just during those lockdowns, it was like, wow, there are so many people out. 'Cause, you'd be out training with the other one person you were allowed with you, where we were, and you just see these little tiny groups of people along the most of the bikeways and stuff because we weren't allowed to sit in those big groups anymore. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I want to move on to a bit of your gear and like what you run. So you're a Revelate ambassador. I'm assuming you're still with Revelate. I want to know what's your favorite setup for your, like, say your like tour divide setup. Like what would be your go-to setup with Revelate bags?
Yeah, I actually mix it up. So the first two times I raced it, I had a frame bag, and actually the first three times I raced it, I had a frame bag. First two times I just had a seat pack, a gas tank, a jerry can. And then in 2019, yeah, same setup, I think. And then last year I raced it again without a frame bag. I had water bottles instead, and I had a front roll on my handlebars. Not too different. I think the best way to carry gear is in a frame bag. Seat packs are great. Front rolls are great for sleep kit, especially if they're waterproof. I always put lightweight stuff up front. I never put anything on the forks.
Is there a reason?
I don't know. Not that interesting. I mean, it's just stuff.
Yeah. Well, is there a reason that you don't run anything on the forks? Because a lot of people love to use fork bags, but
yeah, I used to put water bottles up there because I had to, because I've ridden in a lot of deserts and it's really hard to carry enough water. I feel like it ruins the handling of the bike. It's terrible. Nobody should ever put anything on the forks.
Yeah. Oh, you heard it here. Just with the full frame bag, do you run a hydration pack in that with water? Because like where else do you put your water bottles?
No, I would do a few different things. I've never done that because the added weight and complication of having a hose is a hassle, especially if you're filling up from stream. So I've either had a king cage water bottle mount on the stem, which was I did twice in 2015, or I use Revelate Designs mountain feed bags, which are like the soft sacks, kind of the chalk bags on the bars. The only thing with that is that you end up just having so much stuff on your handlebars. It's just too much. You have these feed bags, and then you have an aero bar, you have a Wahoo mount, you have a quad lock, it's just a spot tracker. It just ends up being like this massive control station, which is like, after a while, I'm like, I just don't want to look at that anymore. It's like, it's just all sticky, it's just like, oh, so, I don't know. That's the tough thing. It's hard to figure out where to put the water if you have a frame bag. It's definitely doable, but it's not the same as just having water bottle cages. And then different people, different size bikes. It just changes where you can pack stuff. I'm like medium height, so I usually ride a medium bike. So that's actually pretty good. I mean, I have room. I have really a lot of room, seat post clearance, so I can run a full size seat pack. So it's pretty simple for me, but definitely for smaller people and smaller bikes, it's really challenging. Sometimes really the best is just to go back to a rack and panniers, especially if you have really good panniers with Velcro attachments. That can be a great solution. I haven't done that for years because I can fit what I need, but it's always a way to go.
Yeah. Well, continuing on with that topic of nutrition, we've recently seen that you've got some sort of green shake powder, which was, I think was that a substitute for veggies?
Yeah, I make these if I can carry enough, I make these gnarly nutrition protein greens, kind of shakes every night before I sleep and every morning when I wake up. They're recovery shakes, they're vegan, and they make me feel way better. It's like the greens mix has all kinds of different stuff, and it's like beetroot, cherry. I mean, just a huge list of really nutrition rich,
Does it go
different
down well?
vegetables. Oh yeah, it tastes great.
Oh,
I
really?
mean, it's like, you just eat so much junk food on the bike because that's what
Yeah.
you find. Like
Yeah.
resupplying at a gas station, you're just eating like candy bars and chips. And so to have something that tastes like real food is such a treat. So that's been a good addition. But the only thing is like, how many of those can you carry?
Yeah.
How much of your bags are filled with powder?
Yeah.
When I'm like at times not bringing a sleeping bag and then I'm carrying a bunch of powder, I don't know. It's like you have to at some point kind of weigh the benefits. But I think I have started just carrying a bit more weight on my bike just to have things that I know will make my ride better, will help me recover faster. Then I can ride faster, even if I have a bit heavier of a bike.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess that leads on really well, which is like another question from one of the people in our community, which is, do you have any other hints on like being able to maintain a healthier lifestyle when you're out bikepacking for those lengths of time? Because obviously when you're out, like as you said, you seem to, like, everyone will munch into the chocolate bars or grab the chips or whatever you can find. Because in Australia, a lot of the places in like the small towns will only have, the buffalo wing chickens and like the bags of lollies and Pringles and
Right.
that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, for touring, if you're taking a bit more time, I really think if you can get fresh fruits and vegetables, real food to eat as you go, it's just going to make you feel a lot better day after day. For racing, it's, you're just trying to do your best. So getting some decent sleep along the way is really important to me, like 4 hours a night. That makes me feel better. And then really the thing is comfort on the bike. So having a comfortable saddle, having larger volume tires, maybe some suspension, different hand positions, a comfortable outfit, like making sure like you're going to feel good on the bike. That's going to make a huge difference out there. Comfortable shoes, wool socks, all this stuff, making sure that you have enough layers for the weather, making sure you have some way to keep your hands warm. All these things are going to make your experience better. And if your experience is better, you're more comfortable, you're going to ride faster for longer and get a better result. That's just how it works. It just depends on how long the race is, but for something that takes a couple weeks, you've got to have a good system in place that's going to make you feel good on the bike. That's just what's worked for me.
Yeah. So on those like longer week, couple week type races, say like Tour Divide, do you, like, how many pairs of kits do you actually bring? So obviously you'd be cleaning them,
This
I
one.
guess. Just one was
I don't bring extra of anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
also don't ride with the chamois. I cut it
Really?
out. So I feel like that's really, for me, better hygiene. Chamois get really dirty, they get saturated. You can't really clean them well. They will never dry. So for me, that's been my solution, is to cut the chamois out and just ride like that. And that way I can rinse out my shorts if I need to. And I never have saddle sores. So that's something that's worked for me.
Yeah, because I've done a few trips where I've only brought one pair of kit and people think I'm crazy, but it's like, in my sort of I guess thought on it is like, once you've been riding for an hour or two anyway, they're already sweaty and dirty, and like you can always go, like in Australia there's a lot of creeks and you can go down to the creeks and wash yourself off and get everything clean.
Yeah.
But it's you're
Yeah.
lugging around, say, 3 or 4 kits, and it's like they're gonna
then
get
you're just
dirty.
carrying dirty clothes. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's like you're carrying a wardrobe of stuff you don't need. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your like go-to foods when you're heading into a store to buy stuff? Do you have stuff that you sort of gravitate towards, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's always different with what's available, but I always try to drink yogurt if I can. It's good for your gut. I mean, I love ice cream. I started this thing where I just I'll buy ice cream, pack it on the bike, and then drink it later when it's melted. That's like power food. Otherwise, real food. So pizza, burritos, sandwiches, anything from a bakery is good. But really, over time, it's like I burn myself out on everything because it's just, you just have to eat a lot. So anything that looks appetizing, that's what you should get and just eat it.
Yeah, shove it in your mouth. And
Yeah,
what would be your
just keep eating.
favorite? What would be your favorite riding snack? Would it be
Uh,
the ice cream?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I eat everything. Ice cream.
Ice cream. Awesome.
Yeah.
So moving on to more like a bit of training and race tips, something I've been wondering actually for a while now is, are you on a training plan or do you sort of just ride?
No, I just ride. I've never had a coach. I've never had a training plan. I just ride as much as I want to. And, sometimes I don't have that much time to do it. So I just
Yeah.
don't ride then. If I'm organizing a girls program, I am dedicating so much time to that I don't have time to ride. Or in the past, when I was working full time, I would just ride whenever I could. On my 2 days off, I would ride as far as I could. But yeah, whenever I can. I love climbing. So that's usually what I do.
Yeah. And I guess it's like keeping the fun in cycling, because I've sort of come from like a racing background and I've seen firsthand about, jumping in when you're in your like under 15s, under 17s, and people getting coached to like hour sessions and intervals and stuff. It doing this day in, day out can wear you out. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people love when they're watching you, is just seeing that you've still got that love for cycling even after riding day after day. It must be because you're just having fun whenever you're riding.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I mean, I think I would like working with the coach. I would benefit from real training. I could improve, but I just haven't had the time for it.
Yeah.
It's been a super packed schedule for years, which is great because I'm doing everything I love, but I am always curious how that would go. I am curious if I could get faster. So maybe someday. I'm 35. So I'm not sure if it'll ever happen.
One day, maybe. So do you ever do much intensity in your riding, or is it more just sort of like endurance based stuff?
I enter events that are intense, so then I do it then.
Yeah.
I raced the Tour de Tucson last fall. I raced 24 hours full Pueblo. And so, if I'm around people that are riding fast, then that's when I do it.
Yeah.
Or if I just feel like riding fast, that's when I do it. But I don't track anything. So I have no idea.
No idea. All right. So another question we've got here, which is quite interesting, is what items do you sort of go without when you're doing, say, like an FKT type event, rather than say like a bike touring event? Like, what would you take? Like, what sort of luxuries would you like to take?
Yeah. So for a tour, I would bring a tent most of the time, unless I'm riding in the desert. I've only brought a tent once for an FKT, and that was in Alaska because the mosquitoes are so bad. I knew I wouldn't sleep without it. So that's one, like a better sleep system for a tour versus a more minimal sleep system for an FKT. I don't bring a stove for an FKT, and I would possibly bring that for a tour. Beyond that, it's pretty similar, the equipment.
Yeah. So do you tend to, like, when you're organizing food and your nutrition and stuff, do you sort of like to eat out of dehydrated meals, or would you prefer to be making your own stuff each night? Because obviously,
I'd rather make fresh food, but sometimes that just isn't, like, if you're riding in Alaska, you don't see a store for 600K at times, so you just have to pack dehydrated food just to make it. Some of those meals are great too. There's a local company up there, Heather's Choice, that has like smoked salmon chowder and bison chili and all this great stuff. So if I'm up there, that's what I'll eat. I usually bring like a big container of mayonnaise to add to the meals because it's super dense and it makes them way more delicious. But yeah, otherwise, if I'm touring in a place like, Israel or the Middle East or Mexico or Europe, where there's food everywhere, I will definitely just buy fresh food every day. Fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, hummus, cheese, fresh bread, all that stuff actually is just, I think, better for your digestion. It tastes
Oh
really
yeah.
good. So it just depends on what's available. If there's food everywhere, then I'm definitely not going to carry meals. I'll
Yeah.
just eat locally.
Yeah. And so like, where has been your favorite place to ride, like so far that
Oh
you've?
gosh, there's so many. There's so many. I love riding anywhere in the mountains. So
Yeah.
Alaska, Kyrgyzstan, uh, did a great tour in Colombia. I love riding in Europe.
I'll make it easier.
Yeah,
What about in like the last
Switzerland.
year? In the last year or last 6 months, where's been your favorite place?
I just raced in the Balkans and I love that. That was awesome. So I'll say
Yeah.
the Balkans.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to go through like some of your past experiences with a few different events. So Trans Am was one of your, I guess, more notable ones that a lot of people have heard about. What was your like motivations going into that? Did you have, the mindset of being competitive, or did you
Yeah,
sort of
I
just want to
did.
experience it?
Oh yeah. I went into that saying that I was going to break the overall record and win
Yeah.
the overall race. And
Yeah.
my motivation for that was that I had done a time trial on the Arizona Trail that in the fall that I had to quit due to terrible asthma. So I said, and I made a video about that. That was my first video ever for REI. And I was so frustrated that I had to quit the ride that I said, next year I'm going to go race a Trans Am and I'm going to win it and I'm going to set the record. And then I don't know what I was thinking because I spent very little time road riding. I had almost no experience. And I just I just was like shooting for the stars. I rode my bike down to the start from Alaska, and
Well,
then
where
I
was the start of
started the
this?
race.
Where was the
Yeah,
start?
that was the start.
Right.
I started the race, and the first week, I was just getting my ass handed to me. I was getting crushed. Mostly by Sarah Hammond, who's Australian and amazing,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
another
So,
guy, Stefan Strick, that's German, and they were only sleeping an hour a night, and they were killing me. They were like over 200K ahead of me, and I was like, I'm such a loser. I can't keep up with these guys. But I was sleeping like 5 hours a night, so I was actually resting and recovering. And then by the halfway point, before the halfway point, I passed Sarah. Then I just had this one, I was riding with another guy named Evan. We just had this one guy, Stefan, in front of us. So basically from the halfway point on, the race is 7,000K. So for
long
the
way.
last 3,500K, I was chasing this guy and I caught him in the final night and I beat him to the finish. I just sprinted as hard as I could and I dropped him and I won. I mean, it wasn't real until that last 100K where I was like, I might actually win this race. This is insane. And I did. And I was only 8 hours slower than the record. So, I mean, the thing is, this was such a good reminder that you start these things and you feel like this is absolutely impossible. I am terrible at this. And then by the end, I basically got the result that I had been shooting for in the first place. So the real thing is to just keep working hard. Don't worry about what the people in front of you are doing. Don't worry about your physical state. Just work to the best of your capacity and see what happens. Because a race that takes 18 days, things are going to change a lot throughout that time. And they really did. And I just I just held on for dear life with that one and it worked out.
Yeah.
But that was really, really hard. It was a heat wave for the entire thing. My skin sunburned, all of my skin sunburned
I
and
saw something
peeled
about
off
that.
twice. I had blisters on my arms. I had a split down my lip. I broke my seat post out there. I split my tires twice. I mean, all this shit happened. My electronic shifting died twice. I mean, it was just what next? But the way you have to approach these things is just to deal with the problems as they come up and move on. Just keep moving on. So it worked out, but that was so hard. And I'm so glad I did it and I will never do it again.
Yeah.
That was it.
Would you say it's one of the hardest races you've done?
The longest.
Yeah.
I mean, the longest in the hottest.
I mean, that's a year's worth of riding for a lot of people.
Oh, I mean, other people raced around the world. And I'm like, God, 18 days. That was crazy. Felt like it would never end.
Yeah.
You get to the halfway point and you're like, okay, I still have 3,500K to go.
Yeah.
God, it's just like mind numbing,
Yeah.
so I'm glad I did it. But also, I mean, it was on the road, and the following 2 years of the Trans Am, somebody got killed each year. Somebody got killed the following 2 years in the Transcontinental. I mean, this is actually dangerous. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's like, yeah, it's exciting, but it's not. I don't want to die out there. I want to ride my bike. I want to spend the rest of my life with Rue, my wife, and be there with my family. So I've really kind of taken that into consideration as far as like the safety of these things. I feel like if you're on dirt, you're out of traffic. If you crash, but at least you're not getting hit by a car.
Yeah, trees don't move, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So was that a bit of a push or motivation for riding and racing Tour Divide?
I raced Tour Divide before that twice.
Right. Was that more of a motivation?
And I rode to the start from Alaska twice.
Yeah.
So that was already kind of in my. That was I broke the record in 2015, the women's record, and then I broke it again. But really, the motivation for going back is to break the overall record, which is the men's record, just under 14 days. My women's record from 2015 is 15 and a half. So that's something that's still on my mind. But last year I made
another attempt.
And I had to stop. So it just has to be the right conditions. And the problem is now with climate change, it's really, really hard to do because, it's just, there's this season of wildfires in the West. So these places are impassable, which is sad to see. Record, who cares? Record is a record, but it's really a tragedy to see just this beautiful area burning. Right now it's flooding. People are out there and it's just horrendous rain and snow. I'm happy I'm not there. Those conditions are just awful. And they're also not the conditions to break a record. They're slow. So, I've raced it 4 times. Right now, it's like, I want to break the record. I want to have good conditions for that. If that's not the case, then I don't want to be out there. I want to race something new. I've raced Trans-Balkan. I've raced the Kronfuyoi in Spain. I got to set a record on the Arizona Trail this year. This week I'll be racing in Kenya. The week after I'll be racing in Iceland. These are all new events for me. That's much more exciting than killing the same horse over and over.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there a motivation to, I'm guessing you may have heard of Race to the Rock in Australia, which is,
that looks really hard.
Yeah.
I mean, that looks like hard just to finish.
Yeah.
I've never ridden there. I'd love to go to Australia just to bike pack, just to see what's going on. It's like I feel like there seem to be so many fantastic routes and such a good community that I'd love to go there and spend like 3 months, because it's also such a long trip for me to get there that I'd really want to spend some time. And so just to kind of spend some time riding, maybe some racing, but see what's happening.
Yeah. Well, this year it's like, I think it's called Race from the Rock or from the Rocks. So it's like starting in Sydney this year, and cool. Sydney's like on the East Coast, and it goes through, like, I guess I'm not from this area, so I don't know it too well, but it goes through like the middle of like rural New South Wales, and it goes down to Adelaide. So it's like it's a bit different because most years it starts at a different city and it will like finish at Uluru, which is the rock reference. But this year it's actually finishing in Adelaide, and it's going through, I think they're just changing it up, but it's it's really exciting. But I've heard from Sarah that a lot of those roads out where they usually do Race to the Rock are getting sealed. So I guess they're sort of trying to test out like alternate routes and alternate roads and different places to go, because it's slowly, like, I don't know, they're all becoming sealed. And it's something that I've wanted to do for a while, being still quite young. So a lot of these 3,500 kilometer races can be quite daunting,
that's a long ride. I mean, I'd love to do that. I'd love to spend more time riding with Sarah. I'd love to race her again. She would just totally kick my ass. She's amazing.
Mm.
But yeah, hopefully we can get together at some point in the next few years. I'd love to make a trip to Australia, but we'll see. I don't know. Is it open for travel there now, or is it still pretty restricted?
I think so. Don't take me up on that, but I think it is, yeah. But it's
When is the best time to go?
best time to go to Australia for bike packing. You're probably used to the cold, so anytime between around April and I wouldn't come any later than October. So from around October, November to about March is like, it depends where you go, but if you go the northern half of Australia, it's dry and just hot, like really, really hot. A lot of the time there's no wind. And then if you go even more north, like up towards Cairns in northern Queensland, it gets really like muggy and humid. And yeah, the riding is pretty nasty. You'll find that you're just like, I remember this one trip that I did a couple months, would have been November last year. I was sweating and sweating. There was just no wind. So like you'd stop and you'd just start sweating and it would not come off you. And I'm sure you've experienced that in one way or another. But yeah, whatever you do, don't come here in the summer unless you want to get.
So April to October.
Yeah. I guess that's why.
Window. I mean, yeah, that's cool. Yeah. I hope to make it. I think that'd be so fun. Something new, just kind of the parallel universe. So someday.
Yeah. So I think they do Race the Rock every September 1st, I think it is. So cool. It's sort of set in the perfect time of riding. That's spring for us. So it's like the absolute perfect time for riding in Australia. So maybe next year or something you could come over, and I'm sure a lot of people would love to do Race to the Rock that year then.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Get a good group of women. It'd be amazing.
Yeah. There's a lot of women in Australia who would definitely love that opportunity to ride with you. Just want to, I guess, move on to one last thing. Obviously, there's been a lot of stuff in the media happening recently. There's a lot of positives and a lot of negatives. And I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the things they're saying. How do you sort of cope with that and still manage to race your bike so damn fast, even with that criticism?
Oh, that's so nice. Oh gosh, everybody's entitled to their opinions. And I feel like I just try to not take it too personally if somebody has a problem with me, because I've spent a lot of this is like recently been facing this kind of criticism, or on the other side, just overwhelming positive response about having Rue document these rides that I do. I'd say it's 95% positive, where people are like, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing the story. And then 5% negative. And of course, it's hard to not focus on the negative. That's just a human thing. That's what we do. We see negative, we're like, but really, I've kind of come to a point where I'm like, I feel good about what I'm doing. I feel like it's ethical. I'm very motivated to share these stories. I don't think it's an unfair advantage in my racing. So these are things that I feel strongly about. So if somebody has a problem with it, that's their problem. It's not mine. I don't agree. I don't see it as support. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I feel good about that. So yeah, but I mean, the main thing is there's no point in arguing. There's no point in getting in a battle on the internet about this stuff. I'm not going to change anybody's mind. They're not going to change mine. They're entitled to their opinion. I don't agree. They don't agree with me. That's fine. You can't win them all. Yeah. But I do feel good about what I'm doing, and I'm going to keep doing it. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Well, like the way that I look at it is like you're one of the big inspirations for me starting bike packing, and for a lot of other people. And it's like, if you weigh it up and you look at how many people you've inspired, it's sort of like, unless you don't want to grow the community, it's like what you're doing, and obviously what, like Lachlan Morton is doing, and a lot of other of these big writers who are documenting a lot of media, they're inspiring like thousands and thousands and thousands of people to get on their bike or ditch the car and
In
ride
any
in or
capacity.
exercise.
Yeah, exactly. That's like, that's the main point, is to encourage people to get out there in any capacity, and it doesn't have to be a big epic trip, or it doesn't have to be the hardest thing you ever did. It could be just spending a little time outside every day, kind of moving your body, getting your heart rate up, seeing like the beauty of the outdoors. All of that is super positive. I think that's good for people's heads and hearts and bodies. And I feel like, sharing these stories actually gets people to go do stuff, which is awesome. I love the stories that Lachlan does. I love, what he's doing for the community right now. It's Road to Ukraine. He's giving bikes to underprivileged girls in Colombia. He's working with Team Amani. He'll be here this week for Migration Gravel. It's like, these are all like providing opportunities for people that wouldn't get them otherwise. So more of that is awesome. I feel like we should just encourage doing the best we can in the bike community to help others get out there too. And I think he's such a great example of somebody that's doing that. I admire that so much. And I just want to see more of that, more positivity instead of just sitting around criticizing what other people are doing. Go do something. Go break my record. Go ride your bike however you want to. I have nothing to say about that, nothing negative to say about that. I feel like, that would just make this a better space for all of us.
Yeah. So obviously you've got your women's programs and stuff, and that's like the motivation is to get more women into this, amazing sport. Is there anything else that other people like, me or other bike shop owners or even people in the community that you think that we could be doing to help increase the diversity and what we're doing?
I mean, I think you're already doing it. You're sharing stories. You obviously really care about this. You want to encourage more people, more beginners to get out there by giving them the tools to do that. That's awesome. I mean, the other thing that I found that really works are events, especially non-competitive events, because there aren't very many of them. There's so many races, but really if you create like an opportunity for people to take on a challenging ride as a group, but it not be a race, that just attracts a different group. And that's also really nice because it builds community, because people can take the time to talk to each other, to help each other. There aren't any rules. So like these rallies, I feel like are a really positive opportunity for something like that. So, the more we can do things like that to actually make people feel like, hey, might be something for me, I'm going to show up and give it a go. That's definitely going to kind of grow the sport as well.
Yeah. I see what you mean with the shorter type events, and it's actually something I've got on my plan, because I've got a 600k and a 400k, which that might not seem like a crazy amount, but they're really tough routes in like where we go.
I mean, that's still a lot of riding. There's no easy way to do that.
But another like a idea that I've had, which I'm gonna execute on soon, is to have an event which is a 200 or like 180 to 200 kilometer one, because for people like me, we can go out and try and finish it in a day, or people who are new to the sport, they can tackle that more flatter route over say 2 or 3 days, and it's something that's a bit more achievable than going out and doing like a 600k ride, because 600ks can still, that route takes people anywhere from 2 days to 7 days.
Right. Yeah. And some people don't have the time either. They're working full time. They have families, but, spending 2 days out there is great. I mean, it doesn't change that much. You're just riding your bike, especially if you're sleeping outside, carrying what you need. That's totally like a valuable experience for everybody.
Yeah. Awesome. And here, I'm just finishing off on my little notes here. I've got something from one of our writers who said, P.S. I finally got to enjoy my very own Lael Wilcox moment late last year when I ate hot chips straight out of my top tube bag, something I've been inspiring to since seeing it on a Tour Divide documentary. Best hot chips I've ever eaten.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. It's bikepacking is all about eating. You're
Yeah.
like, you just have to eat more and whatever you can find. And so that's super cool.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess that's a wrap up for this. And I really want to
Cool.
thank you and show my appreciation for you jumping on, because it's great not only for me to be able to learn stuff, but also for the whole community and, my shop and my customers and people who listen to the podcast are going to love listening to this. So big
Yeah,
thank you for
absolutely.
jumping on.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks
No,
so much.
one last thing, if you could recommend, like, who would be one person you would want to listen to on my podcast?
Oh, I just listened to a great podcast with Jenny Graham, and
Wow.
she's a Scottish adventurer. She has the women's around the world record. If you can get her, she's the best. She has great stories. She's writing a book about her around the world attempt
Oh,
or
awesome.
ride. But yeah, I find her personally very inspiring and just a great leader for the community.
Well,
Another one too, her good friend Lee Craigie would also be amazing.
awesome.
Also Scottish. Those two have great stories and a great sense of humor.
I've got a good reference, so I'll let them know that you've mentioned them. Awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you
for
very
sure.
much, Lael. It was great to chat to you.
You too. All right, take care.
Bye
Bye.
bye.